Caicedo. Oh, it's fabulous! A strike to get you up off your seats.
Hello, welcome to Seagulls Social Season 4, Episode 14. I don't know how to feel today, Maz, if I'm honest with you. I'm in a bit of a torn situation between whether I'm going to praise the club or whether I'm going to be a bit, not negative, but a little bit frustrated. But before we get into all the great fun of the game, Maz, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Same as you, mate. I feel like it's a really weird time at the moment because I think in the last, 5 years, like a lot's changed, like to our football club, and I think as time's gone on, our expectations have changed.
Yes,
but I think sometimes you've got to keep some perspective. But no, I completely get where you're coming from, and it's a frustrating time. I think frustrating slash, it's a good time to be a Brighton fan, obviously, because we're in Europe and all that good stuff. But at the same time, it's just like every game is just different, isn't it? It's like every game, you just don't know what to expect. And like, you can't really go into a game feeling confident anymore, as sometimes maybe we did last season. So all in all, I am fine. Supporting Brighton Hove Albion is a fun time at the moment.
I think you said about expectation and balancing your opinions, but I think you've got to just go with where we are now, because obviously we've set the bar so stupidly high last year. We finished in that top 6 bracket of being, having an absolutely unbelievable season, selling players for £100 million. Like, you wouldn't have ever even thought we'd say half of that stuff. But I think because of where we've got to, we have to hold that similar sort of expectation as fans, isn't it? Because, it's all well and good saying, where we've come from, but equally it's like, well, actually now we're here, so we want to be here.
Oh no.
So I think
100%.
That's where it's hard. I think it's weird. I
100% agree with you. I think that whole like sort of that old school fan versus the new school fan. It's like, oh, remember where we came from? Remember like we nearly didn't have a club, and I'm like, I get that, I do, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think we are where we are now, so let's live in the
and
moment and let's not worry about
stay
we
here,
actually are,
isn't it? We don't want to just be here and disappear.
Also, as well, Ryan, just quickly, you made a really good point about transfers and selling players, and I think that's one thing we forget as well. We sold, the core of our team last season, the hub. Caicedo and McAllister were literally like the heartbeat of our team. Yeah, and it's apparent. Let's be real. We've seen a massive drop off since they've left, and that was always going to happen, I think, naturally. That was really. I thought that was a good point to pick up. So let's not forget as well. We have and injuries as well at the moment. We're losing. We've lost Estepinian, who was a key member of our team last season, and Solly March as well to injury. So we've got to remember as well. Remember what's happening as well. We've lost players through sales and injuries. So, we just got to remember we're balancing at the moment. It is tough.
Yeah, and I think when you look back on the summer, I think that's where people's core frustrations are going to come from, isn't it? I mean, that deep down, when every time we lose or we don't get a win and we evidently see the midfield getting overrun, we just think, but we know that we've lost this. How did we not replace it? We had so long to do so. And I think that's what's always going to be in my back of my head is that frustration there.
And not just the centre midfield. Let's talk about fullbacks. Let's be real as well.
Yeah.
I said at the beginning of the season, I wanted to have a Sacha Boe or Barco, and we got neither of them. And right back and left back have been a really tough thing for us because obviously we lost Estepinian and James Milner's had to, Lamptey or Milner or someone's had to come in, and then Lamptey gets injured.
Veltman got injured as well, didn't he, at some point?
Veltman got injured, and it's like, why did we not? That was surely a position where we had to strengthen. We had to do it, and we didn't. We went into a season relying on Milner and Lamptey to sort of backfill, and we had Solly March playing there at one point as well at left back, and then
he got injured as well.
Gets injured. Yeah, and it's like, I get it. I get injuries are an unfortunate part of the game, and it is unlucky. You can't have foresight for injuries, but at the same time, you surely got to plan a little bit better when it comes to certain positions. But
it's an element of that what if situation, and I think that all of our what ifs have actually come true. which is what's probably the worst part. It's like, what if Lamptey gets injured? Then Lamptey gets injured. What if Veltman gets injured? He got injured. And then it was almost a Stupinian at the beginning of the season, wasn't it? What if he got injured? He's with our sole left back, and then he does get injured. So all of them sort of what ifs have actually happened, and I think that's what's really taken its toll on the team.
And I think what the frustrating thing is, you could have probably predicted that. Let's be real. Like, you could have probably predicted Lamptey to get injured. You could have predicted Lallana not to be able to play. Well, yeah, Lallana can't play every game 90 minutes. Like, you can predict all these things, really. And Welbeck as well is now injured.
Yeah.
Again, if you'd asked me this at the beginning of the season, who do I think will most likely get injured at some point? Welbeck, Lallana and Lamptey are going to be top of my list. And lo and behold, unfortunately, sadly, and again, I don't want them to be injured, but
no, definitely not.
That is their track record, and it is frustrating, but we're just gonna have to make do, aren't we? We're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think we weren't that bad against Everton at all. I thought we played a decent game, and as De Zerbi alluded to, we just didn't create enough, and really to win the game, and obviously that we went behind so early in such a stupid fashion, and I think that's what was a bit sour. We can't seem to score goals. So I concede goals in like just a normal way. Like no one just scores a normal goal against us. We have to sort of mess around with it. And I think it was Veltman missed it, wasn't it? And then it comes back across. Yeah. And then he has a shot and sort of rebounds back out. And then it's a deflection and it's gone in at the near post. And, no one's got any chance of stopping that from going in. So I'll give Verbruggen his credit. He made the save before that. And it was just a bit of a circus, wasn't it, in net? Yeah.
I think defensively in the last few weeks we have been really, really poor. I think we can go into every game now just like not expecting expecting to concede. I think like every game we've gone into for the last maybe month or so, I've always thought, right, well, we're going to concede, so we're going to have to score more.
Never a 2-0 win on the predictions.
Yeah, I think was it Ajax? We had a clean sheet, and then. I can't remember the last time we had a clean sheet.
I think that was our first one since Arsenal away last season, Ajax, which is some stat. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that was the stat from reading it back then. But yeah,
I think you're right. I'm just looking back now. I think. Oh no, here you go. Oh no, this is friendly. Sorry, I'm looking. Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. Arsenal.
Yeah, it's insane. Like insane.
So defensively, you can see we're just not the same as we were, pre-Arsenal, and it's just, Again, look, we talked about it just a couple of minutes ago. We have had injuries. We've had formation. Different lineups. No stability in that defence. So you are, naturally, I think you're going to be weaker defensively for that. But yeah, I think, like you said, it was a bit of a shit show at the back for that goal. Verbruggen. My only thing with Verbruggen, could you argue that he could have maybe palmed it more wide, because he did palm it back out to Mykolenko. But again, I think I'm just being a bit harsh, to be fair. Yeah. But because he did palm it sort of straight back into Mykolenko's path, which I mean.
Verbruggen's new in the team again, isn't he? And I think that's what the first sort of shock was, wasn't it? When Verbruggen, obviously I think it was Andy Naylor put the tweet on, and then it was sort of saying we're not going to rotate so much. And then, clearly it was mind games with De Zerbi. I'd call it mind games, maybe putting out to the media some false info to try and trick Everton. But it didn't really make too much of a difference. I thought, I didn't really think anything really changed too much. Verbruggen is a top talent. Don't get me wrong. I think he will be great. It's just he needs to run a game. As we said on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, he just needs that 10-game stretch of just having regular football, because otherwise, he's never going to get used to the team, especially as a goalkeeper. It's not like he's. Don't get me wrong, if he needs a rest, he needs a rest. But I think at the minute, we just need to have a regular goalkeeper for a bit and then just see how it goes. And for me, if it's going to be a 21-year-old sensation, so to speak, in Netherlands, he needs that time, doesn't he? That goal was a bit of a sloppy one. And I thought all round were a little bit funny, but I thought that goal came a bit out of nowhere, really. We were just a bit susceptible to that counter-attack. I think it was Calvert-Lewin, McNeil quite carrying it, weren't they? Like they always seem to do against us. And
I mean, I mean, yeah, they gave us troubles last season, didn't they?
Yeah.
At the Amex, they absolutely battered us.
Yeah.
That core of
And
like
that was
the
with
core
Caicedo, McAllister, so
Yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, I think slightly. If you look at overall the game, and again, I know we're going to get into the moments of the game, but I think overall, if you look at it, I think I want to sort of give credit a little bit to Everton. Like, I think it was a fair result. You know, I think Sean Dyche now, like, they're not the same Everton we saw last season. You know, at the beginning of the season, you know, the first half of the season, they were pretty shocking. Like, every team expected to beat Everton. And then you saw once Dyche came in, he sort of settled everything. He's made them a tough team to beat. They set up well. And we saw yesterday, like, if you look at the match stats, right, we obviously dominate possession, 80% to 20, which is like, you know, huge domination. But if you look at XG, they had better XG, they had better goal attempts, they had more shots on goal. They had, what else did they have? More goal attempts, more shots on goal, and more XG and bigger XG over the game. However, we had more attacks and more dangerous attacks. So, you know, in terms of a balanced game, if you want to look at sort of stats, of course, use your eyes as well. But if you want to look at stats on the balance of the things, like, I think a fair result was a draw. And I think I want to give, you got to give credit to Sean Dyche because he does set up his teams well, and you know, we do struggle against low blocks and, you know, teams that
at least we didn't lose, I suppose, is the point from low blocks this time.
And I saw you tweet yesterday about, like, you know, in the like after the game, you're like, oh, it's a point away at Everton. It's actually not a bad result. And given the circumstances right now, the team that Everton are, because mate, they just beat West Ham, who again themselves are doing all right. The week before, away to West Ham, they got a 1-0 win there. And then they've got a draw at home, and it looks like they're progressing every week. So, you know, in hindsight, it's not a terrible point. I know we didn't play our best, and, you know, there's lots of things to take out of the game. But yeah, like, what? Yeah, I know going into it, we wanted to get the win, but if you look back now, 1-1, I think it's a fair result.
I'm not like, I didn't come out of the game salty that we didn't win, if you know what I mean. But you mentioned using your eyes to watch football, and I'm going to use my eyes here on that equaliser because
love that segue, Ryan.
Because I don't think that anyone else did use their eyes, at least in the officials, because I just
what shambles!
I can't even. This weekend, mate, it's been awful, hasn't it? I mean, I was just checking my phone and I see another one come up from a different game, and you just think it's not, as we always say, VAR in theory should work fine, but we're so unprepared for it at this level. I think it was who was it who got relegated down? Anthony Taylor got relegated down, right?
Yes, the Championship,
which in itself, by the way, I actually disagree with the process of, because I just feel like you're not actually solving any problem. You're just moving the problem to the Championship and giving them another bad referee. So, like, it just
that's a very good point, actually. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just giving them
instead of sending them, it's like sending them away to a boot camp and then not giving them the training at the boot camp.
Yeah.
Like, you surely want to, you know, educate. You want to teach, you want to make them learn what their mistakes are, rather than just going, all right, you've been a naughty boy, go to the naughty step, which is the Championship apparently. And so
we're in the Championship,
I can really
we'd be on the other end of it, getting another rubbish referee from the Prem. We'd be like, what do we want him for? We're just making the league worse. So, you know, it's stupid, really, I think.
You make a good point.
Yeah, it's weird. So, Anthony Taylor's been relegated, and then you've got so who was on ours? It was Michael Oliver refereeing, wasn't it? And don't get it wrong, there's a couple
last night?
Yesterday. Was it Michael Oliver?
Yeah,
it was him.
I think so. Yeah.
And then there was a couple of sort of things. I think Everton had a penalty questionably. I do
want to talk about that actually.
That was just before the goal, wasn't it?
McNeil. Yes. So sorry, just quickly. The referee was Robinson. I've never heard of him. T. Robinson.
Oh right, I don't know. No idea. Don't even know who he is.
I don't know who that is. The penalty shout. So look, I'll be honest here. You know, being sketchy, we're not a biased podcast. It was sketchy. I'm not gonna lie. I think we slightly got away with that one. I do feel like he does push into him, and you could argue maybe does McNeil go down slightly softly, but I do think there's contact there, and if that was the other way round, I would be asking for a penalty, to be honest with you. So, I think Veltman's quite lucky there, to be honest,
Yeah.
because it seems like he was a bit out of position. He was scrambling, and he's come back, and he sort of just fell into him.
Yeah.
And it was sloppy. So yeah, I think we've got away with one there, to be honest.
I sort of agree with you, to be fair. In the moment, I was a bit unsure, I've got to be honest. And then, because I was on that side of the sort of, it's my first and only time at Goodison. So I didn't, everyone always says how old it is, isn't it? And it's so like, wooden and...
Yeah, what was it like?
Yeah, it is literally everything that everyone says. I mean, my view was tainted by a big black sort of netting, so I couldn't actually see the goal properly.
Oh, class.
And yeah, it was just made out of wood, and it was just literally just wooden blocks as my seats. And I thought, yeah, I can see where you get.
So that new stadium.
That new stadium's going to be unbelievable for them. It'd be but it's a historic place. Don't get me wrong. It is. If I feel like that's the only reason I really wanted to go. I always avoid Everton away because it never seems to do that well, apart from the last couple of years. I was like, I'm just going to do it to get out. Just to say I went to Goodison Park, and yeah, I'm sort of glad I did it. I'm glad I ticked it off. But yeah, it was.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, so the view of that moment, I did think that's a bit dodgy. I'm not going to lie. And yeah, I've watched it back on the YouTube since, and I thought, yeah, that we did get away with one there, especially Veltman, to be honest. But yeah, well, he didn't make it much better anyway, because as I say, that goal that wasn't by Dunk, what a finish! By the way, what a finish that was, mate. I thought it was Ferguson,
honestly.
not Dunk.
Honestly, first time, and I'm 99.9% sure it was his left foot as well. And
it was.
like absolute, like to be able to hit that first time on the volley, with that kind of position, that power, like you said, you would not think he's a centre half. No. If you showed someone who's never watched football in their life, you went, right, watch this goal, tell me what position they play. Yeah. They're not going to say he's a centre half. Yeah. So yeah, it was. But we all know. Like I saw that go in. Right, I watched saw the goal go in, and I was like, do you know what? I was like, fucking hell, what a goal. But then I was like, do you know what? Donkey's got. We all know he's got techers. Like we know his technical ability, how good he is at his range of passing. Like
we talked free kick yesterday as well, so nearly went.
Yeah, his free kick. Yeah, good save from Pickford. Like we know he's got techers, but yeah, that finish was obscene. And let's talk about the offside, because I think it's a ridiculous decision. Because correct me if I'm wrong. Have they based it on his hand?
Yeah,
being in a. So how is a hand giving you an advantage? Do you score with your hand? I don't get it. It's in the
rules that it doesn't count, doesn't it? It's actually written in the rules on the FA website that's wrong. That's incorrect. So we should actually technically get another apology for that, because you can't. It has to be on that shoulder or the sleeve, isn't it? And that wasn't even on the sleeve. It was like halfway down his forearm. So God knows how they can even give it. So yeah.
Apology FC.
Yeah.
Apology FC, mate. Might as well just yeah. I mean, I know we've said this. Like honestly, I don't kind of remember how many times we've said this now. But what does an apology do? Like what? Like you mentioned earlier, Ryan, like about referees, right? Like it's the same thing. What are we doing to change things? It's all good saying sorry. Oh, sorry, sorry, messed up again. What does that do for us? Does that give us 3 points? Does that give us the goal we should have got? Like, what's being done by the FA? By the referees, by anyone whose job it is, what are you actually doing right now? What are you actually doing themselves. To change
That's what
things?
They're doing. To be honest, they're just protecting each other, and that's what's more annoying, isn't it? Because it's like that authority. You can't get past it because they're all friends. So all well and good getting rid of Anthony Taylor, but again, as I said earlier, I think it's just moving the problem to the Championship anyway. And then he's just going to rot in there, and he's going to cause problems in there. They're going to complain. It just makes the problem worse, doesn't it? If anything.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just nothing's changed, does it? We've said this. How many times have we said this on this podcast about poor refereeing?
That's the frustrating thing. It's like, as fans, right? So I think Arteta summed it up brilliantly after his press conference yesterday, because obviously there was a lot of there was some big contentious. As we all saw, there was like three different sort of reasons to chalk off the goal. Right. All of them that they basically didn't agree that was anything wrong. So I think the ball going out of play, there was an offside, and there was a foul. So there's three different sort of incidents within one action of one run of play. So ended up giving the goal, and obviously Arteta just went in after the game. He was like, it's a disgrace. Like he was like, I've been in this country for 20 years now, and to have this standard of officiating and technology, the technology we have, we're not using it properly. How are we still at this stage? He was like, it's embarrassing. It's not good enough. And I agree with him completely. It's like we've now got we've had this technology now for a good few years now, and look, it's not going to be perfect by any stretch, but at the same time, is it going to be at this level that we thought it would be right now? Like, how have we had it for this
closer to
long?
perfect than it is now. I mean,
Yeah.
we are
Exactly.
so far away from perfect. I mean, we've got to be on that 5% of 100. I mean, honestly, it's so far away from being anywhere near what it's supposed to do. And what we've had it for, as you say, 4 years now, since 2019 it came in.
Yeah.
And it's done nothing.
And I know it's not VAR, but like even like stuff like like the goal line technology failed, and Sheffield United got relegated because of it, and like Aston Villa stayed up because of it, like stuff like that. And again, I know it's not technically VAR, or there's different type of thing, but still it's technology, right? And it's like we've seen technology fail us quite a lot of times, and it goes back to this whole argument of like, oh, do you want VAR in general? And I do. I think to answer the question, I think I do want VAR. I think it does help.
Yeah, but it's just...
but it needs to be used properly. It needs to be, developed more, and it needs to be, why during the off season, right? Come at the end of the season or whenever. Why don't they really, really go to town and just have like full on, development and research and whatever they need to do to just develop it and make it better? Like, why are they not putting all their resource and time into making these things better?
Wasn't it Paul Merson nailed it, wasn't it, in a couple of weeks ago with Mike Dean on the Sky
Saturday.
And he flipped, absolutely flipped. And to be honest with you, I don't blame him. With some of the stuff that Mike Dean was saying, I probably would have flipped as well. And I think he was saying it's just doing something for the sake of it, just replaying for the sake of it, wasn't it? It was like for the sake of it. It was like, this is one of the biggest games in the calendar. And even if it wasn't one of the biggest games in the calendar, these games matter so much to fans. It's the whole point of my week is to watch the football at the end of the week, and you to have it just sort of brushed over by them, like it doesn't really matter that much. Just chill out a bit. It's just think those are the people that are in charge of it. So what am I following? What am I paying money for? And that's it really. It's mind-boggling.
I think another final point on this is you just mentioned it now, money. Like the amount of money they make from us, the amount of money they pump into this sport. Well, where's it? Why are you not spending that money on things that are actually needed, rather than stupid ideas like the Super League and all this bullshit that you always try and spin on us? Like, what instead of trying to better the product, it feels like they're not. They're just spending that money elsewhere and in other places and with other things that we just don't need. So the amount of money, like you say, as consumers we pay, our hard-earned money. And I think McTominay mentioned it, and again, it wasn't to do with VAR, but Man United fans are moaning about how shit they are at the moment. And he's like, and McTominay came out and said, he goes, these fans pay a lot of money to come and see us. Let's give them something to be happy about. And it's the same with VAR and technology. It's like in football, we pay so much money. We make the product what it is. Without fans, you'd be nothing. So why don't you improve our user journey and make the product better?
Well, we saw it, didn't we, in COVID years with no fans. I didn't even like watching football, to be honest. I watched it for the sake of the podcast, and I think honestly, if I didn't do the podcast and all the stuff on Twitter and articles, whatever, I actually just don't think I'd have been that interested in it. I don't think I'd have watched it at all. Because I didn't really enjoy the games. I mean, I sort of just watched them, but it just didn't really mean anything to me as much.
It was flat, wasn't it?
I couldn't even recall that many games from that season in the way I could recall games from 10 years ago. It's weird.
Oh, yeah, COVID was a blur, mate. I still take 2 years off my age, so I'm actually still 30, mate. So,
I'm still probably 20.
COVID doesn't count, mate. COVID didn't count. It was all fake news, mate. It was fake news. It didn't actually happen.
Literally. But anyway, so frustrating. And then we sort of go into the end of the half. Again, we were pushing a bit, to be fair. We were knocking the ball around, and this was the thing. It gave me a bit of confidence going into the second half, because I thought, if we were to score before half time, it changes the game, obviously. But I thought the way we were kicking it about, I thought we have a chance. But as we always know, a Sean Dyche team, to try and break through when they're 1-0 up is one of the hardest tasks to get through in football. He's so experienced.
And arguably as well, before we got our goal, McNeil could have made it 2 as well. He had that shot that went slightly. To be fair, it wasn't like a clear cut chance, but it was still a chance. But the shot sort of went slightly wide. But I think on the balance of it, I think in the second half we were better. much better than in the first half. But it still wasn't quite it. And I think that goal as well from Mitoma. Fair play to Mitoma. Good play from him, to be fair. Yeah. Took on his man, and he did give Young a few times where he sort of like, shit, I'm in a world of trouble here. And it was one of those goals where, look, if you concede it, you're fuming. Like if we conceded that, we're seething. But it's nice to be on the other end of it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Exactly. It's nice. It's nice to be on the other end of it.
Yeah.
I think like you mentioned earlier, on the balance of the game, I think it was a 1-1 draw was right. I think if we'd gone away losing that game, I think we would have been frustrated. But to then win it, we probably would have walked away thinking, fucking hell, we got a bit lucky there.
I want to mention to you Mitoma just quick, because he's been a bit of a hot and cold talking point on Twitter, and I was a bit surprised to see so much cold about him, if I'm honest with you, because I am on the side of, I think Mitoma is by far our best attacker, not even close.
Yep.
It's just when he's doubled up on, it's hard, because on the right side, as much as I like Adingra, I think he's a great talent. You know, he's not Mitoma, so he's not going to sort of do what Mitoma can do. So if we're not attacking on the right, it basically isolates Mitoma, and I think that the expectations sort of raised on him. But yeah, Mitoma, to you, Maz, is he? I don't get the real frustration towards him. But what do you think?
No, I agree. I think there was a patch, and we spoke about it quite candidly on the pod. There was a patch where he was struggling for form. I think it was about maybe a month ago now, or roughly around that patch. He was struggling a few games that way. He just didn't look the same Mitoma. But I think overall, on the whole, he has been very good. Like you said, he's our best attacking outlet by far. I think Adingra is still very raw. He's still not nowhere near the completed article. He's still got a lot of learning to do, and he still has a few games where he sort of goes missing. And then Ferguson as well. I think he's been a bit hot and cold. I know he's had his illness. He's been struggling. I think that's clearly affected him, because mad thing is, he's still one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League, even though he's barely played. And and credit to him, I think that shows a lot about him as a player. But yeah, he's still I think he's still struggling with that illness, whatever it might have been. But yes, and then going back to your point, Mitoma, he has been the better, best attacker we've had. So to call him like poor, but, and I think go back to completely the beginning of the pod. We've got to remember, Estepinian, he had such a good relationship with Estepinian.
Yeah.
And for him to be out of the team and not having that, having Estepinian behind you, I think it is going to affect you as a player, having such a strong link with someone and playing so well with someone. For them to then go out of the team, you're sort of like, oh, I'm a bit lost here. Okay, cool, you have a left back, but he's not the left back you're used to, or you have that kind of connection with. So I think we've got to remember that as well. I think once we see Estepinian back in the team, I think we're going to see the best of Mitoma again. I think he'll allow him to be the best version of himself. Yeah,
I agree as well, and I also think it's just that right side. It's just nowhere near as strong as the left when the Estepinian's fit.
Yeah,
it's so far away from being as good as Mitoma and Estepinian. As much as I really like Veltman, obviously he's not going to go on and take on players, and Lamptey's injured too often to rely on that. So to have someone of Estepinian's quality on the other side is so necessary. And also the 100%. Same quality as Mitoma on the other side. March is probably a lot closer than Dingro is, but now he's out anyway, so it doesn't matter. So it's just a Dingro we're sort of relying on at the minute. Probably wouldn't fancy João Pedro out on the right, and you probably wouldn't really want fancy Fati on the right. So it's hard, really. We don't really have that right winger that can really do what Mitoma can do. And I think when we do, it gives teams something else to worry about. As we saw, beginning of this year, when we were firing, weren't we? We had Mitoma March every other week. And it was one of them would score, one of them would assist nearly every game. And I think that's what's made us a lot more lethal. Whereas now, everyone knows if you just double up on Mitoma, if Adingra isn't going to score, they're probably not going to do too much.
And that's a really good point, actually, because think about it as well. If Mitoma... Also, as well, you've got to remember, if Mitoma feels like he is the outlet, he has to be the main person. Maybe that is a bit of pressure on him. He's thinking, in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I've got to carry this attacking threat. I've got to be the one everything goes through. So to have that kind of pressure...
he was yesterday, to be honest, I thought. We pretty much went to him every time, didn't we?
Exactly. So maybe that's like you said. I think March took that load off him. Then when Ansu Fati's in the team, takes that load off him a little bit. Like I think he needs that sort of freedom of being able to think. Right, I can just play without any pressure. I think that's when he's at his best. Is when he doesn't feel like he's got too much pressure on him. He sort of just you just give him the ball and he does what he does. Like that incredible dribbling ability he's got, that technical ability, the way he takes on players, and that's what you want to see with Mitoma. I think you want to see him in a one-on-one position with the fullback. Take him on, go down the wing, cut in, cross it, or lay it off and goal. So I think you want to see him in those positions. And are we getting? I suppose the question is, are we getting him in those positions enough? Are we getting him one-on-one enough with players? Which I think in balance we are. I think he's getting enough opportunities, but then it's like, do we have the players around him? At the moment, Ferguson not being the best he can be. It's. I think at the moment the team is struggling as a whole. I don't think it's fair to pinpoint one player or 3 or 4 players. I think as a team we are struggling both defensively and going forward. Really.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, we just. I think we're getting him the ball enough, but again, because he gets tripled up on, he gets isolated, and that's the trouble because he's got no one else really that's with him. When Ansu Fati and João Pedro, I think when they come together, I think they'll be all right. But they need games together. They need to grow that partnership, as you say, like a Stepinian, Mitoma. They have that partnership, and you almost need them partners across the pitch to keep the team clicking. Like Van Hecke, I thought was brilliant yesterday. I think he's really come into the team, like probably been one of our best defenders. Alongside Dunker, I think they're great together, and that you can see like a link forming there, and like you did with the Stupinian Mitoma, and then that's when you need it up front, and that's what De Zerbi was alluding to afterwards, obviously saying that we didn't shoot enough, and that's what he sort of basically put it down to, is that we didn't shoot enough, we didn't have enough shots in the game. I think Buonanotte went through, could have shot, didn't. We had a couple, didn't we? I think Fati had one. Was it Fati or I think it was either Fati or João Pedro, one of the two. I can't remember who it went to now. Either way, could have had a shot. Didn't really. We didn't really take that chance. I think Gross had a shot blazed over the bar. Gross chance. That came from Mitoma, and we just didn't really have that that finishing lethal touch like we have done in the past. But again, maybe it comes down to that whole thing of rotating so much. You don't have them partners. You don't know where each other's are going to be on the pitch every time. So maybe that's what you could put it down to.
I don't want to sound like a broken record because I think we've all said it about 70 million times in the last 3-4 weeks, but the rotation is killing me. I'm not going to even lie anymore. Like I've wanted to be positive about it, and I don't want to sort of knock De Zerbi, but the rotation is killing me. I just feel like we need consistency. Look, let's be frank. Look at Aston Villa, right? They've got 2 competitions. I know it's Conference League and it's not Europa League. You could argue that, but they're in 2 competitions, and look how well they're doing in both. They're both doing well on the European front. I know they had 1 loss against that Polish team, but they went to Netherlands, got a 4-1 win in Europe, and then they go to the Premier League and get a win. Like they're showing that you can have a consistent team and do well on both fronts. So I'm just not having this excuse of like we've got too many games. We're balancing Europe and Premier League, because if Aston Villa can do it, why are Aston Villa any different to us? They don't have more. They don't have rules where they can play more players. They don't play with 12 men on the pitch every week. Like there's no difference between us and Aston Villa really.
Yeah.
So
I'd say one of the biggest differences in Aston Villa, just on I'll give them the credit where it's due. I think they've obviously got a lot more money than us to begin with, so they started with more money.
True.
So they've had Watkins for what? 4 or 5 years. They've had Douglas Luiz for about the similar time. John McGinn, similar time. They've built a core from a long time ago of good players that they could buy for a big price back then. Obviously, Watkins came on a big deal, and I think it was like 33 million plus 85k a week, wasn't it? And that's what we couldn't compete with back then. Now we could, but obviously, if we were to go and spend quite a lot of money now, it'd be relying on them to just go like that. And as we've said with the likes of Baleba, Ansu Fati, it doesn't quite work like that. So I'd say that's probably the one thing that Villa have got over us.
That's
is that
fair,
they've had these big quality players. They just weren't unlocked. They're playing and not really being utilised enough. Watkins has just been absolutely different level for them, and I think that's what's really been quite a focal point for them is Watkins' impact. And Douglas Luiz has been quality. So I think these 2 players that have been there for such a long time, big signings, but now being able to reap the rewards of it.
But then it's like, okay, and again, I'm not saying we're as big of a club. You've got to admit, Aston Villa are a way bigger club than us.
Course,
And
yeah,
I get,
absolutely,
yeah, like they are a bigger club, and like you said, they've got more money, they've got more resources and stuff like that. But in terms of like being an attractive club, like, you know, and retaining a player, because you mentioned it there, like they've kept their best players over the years, and we haven't. So it's like, how do we get? How do we? Yeah, how do we get to that level then? Like, how do we get to the level where we are retaining all our best players and we are then competing on both fronts? But yeah, just basically the point I was trying to make was like, I'm seeing what Villa are doing, and I do take your point on board, definitely. Like, I do agree. They obviously, do have more money, and, you know, they've got an established core and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think even Unai Emery's, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I don't watch Villa week in, week out, but I'm pretty sure they don't rotate every week like we do. They don't have a 1 and 2 keeper like we do. Like, I just, it is frustrating me that the rotation is too heavy. I get if you're rotating 3 or 4 players every week, but we're rotating maybe like 6, 7 players every week. And it's like, how are you meant to get any kind of consistency and stability with that amount of rotation? I just don't see it personally. And look, hopefully De Zerbi proves me wrong in the long run. And, you know, come the end of the season, we're a top 6 finish, and, you know, we've done well in Europe. Like, I would love that. But at the moment, I'm like, what's happening? What's going on?
I've really noticed in the Prem is that we've almost gone back in time a bit, like with how teams play. So sort of, hear me out on this. The best teams in the league at the moment, probably Newcastle, Villa, Manchester City, Arsenal. Like those are probably your best teams, like in terms of who, if you see them in a team, you're probably going to back them to win their game. And I'd say that those were your 4 best teams, and all of them are so physical and very, 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 like they're very strong. They're gonna push you around a bit. In midfield, they're going to be very powerhousey, driving it. Douglas Luiz is very good at it. I think that they've got that sort of strength. And the same with Newcastle, City even now. I mean, Doku's given them completely different outlet. Rodri in midfield is so strong. I mean, I'm not seeing really many people push Rodri off the ball. And the same with Newcastle. As I said, that those 4 teams seem so strong. And I don't think that's one thing we've regressed on is our sort of physicality. We used to be quite a strong team with Duffy and Dunk, and, you know, we were quite a hard team to score against. Whereas now, you know, even like Caicedo was so physical for us. McAllister, even, like, he was a bit of an underrated one with how physical he could be. He looked skinny, but he was quite a strong boy. Yeah, he held people off well. We don't really have that now. Gilmore, as much as I like him, he's not strong. Like he's not going to hold someone off. Baleba could, but again, he's not quite ready yet. And that's what we're really missing.
Dahoud definitely can't.
Dahoud, I reckon I'd outmuscle him. So, I mean, so there's a few there's a few like quite weak. Not weak. It's hard to say weak, isn't it? It's always harsh, but we're not very strong physically to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, well, I think if you look at our centre backs, like Duncan, Van Hecker are like as solid as they come, pretty much. I reckon I'd back them as a partnership over.
Well, Van Hecker is way stronger than
solid, yeah. Yeah, mate, they're both fucking, like, they're hard. I reckon you put them in a boxing ring, they go all 12 rounds. It'll be an absolute slugfest. But, and go back to your point of, like, sort of centre midfield area. Yeah, for sure. I think we are lacking physicality there for sure. In this Premier League, like, it is a really tough physical league. And I think, you do need that. And I suppose, is that an area we improve in January? Like, does January come around and does Zerbi think, right, we need one more in centre midfield? But also Yakumoda coming back, so I'm not saying he's the most physical, but he's a big lad. He's, I think, 6'4"?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't actually know what to expect. Because I this sounds really weird, but I guess it's because Moda played the lion's share of his Brighton career in COVID again, and it comes back to what we said earlier. I don't remember too much about him, if I'm honest with you. I don't actually specifically remember anything that Moda did that much, and that's not because he wasn't good for us. I just don't remember it. And
he got a lot of stick, didn't he? Like, talking about social media, he gets a lot of stick on socials. Like, a lot of people don't rate him, which I thought was a bit unfair. Really, I think, again, I'm the same as you. I don't really remember much, but from what I do remember of Yakumoda, I think he'll be a good addition to have, like, especially another body in midfield. We definitely need it, and it's something different. Again, if we're going to be rotating every game and changing 6-7 players, I suppose we need all the strength, all the depth we can get. So, is he going to come in and revolutionise our team? Probably not. But at the same time, to have that option, 100%, I'm all for it. Hopefully he comes back and absolutely smash it. Because he was linked with Bayern Munich back in the day, and like he's meant to be like the next big thing. So look, if he can fulfill his potential, he could be a really important player for us. But it's too early to say, and we haven't seen enough of him. So
yeah, and I'll just pick up on your point about January, because do you think that Bloom is going to almost be cornered into making a little bit more of January? Because he's always said he doesn't want to go into January and spend. And look, don't get me wrong, this isn't a criticism of Bloom, but sometimes you just got to have these conversations. And I think, because of how we went about the summer, we sort of, perhaps a bit naivety towards it, thinking, we've been able to upgrade Basuma with Caicedo, and we could just do that again with Baleba, and it's just going to be an easy switch. It's been anything but, to be honest. Dahoud hasn't come in and just been McAllister. It's not quite been like that. So do you think he's almost going to be a little bit, cornered into making some bigger decisions this January by De Zerbi and co, and saying, look, we need the players. It's quite clear with in depth we are a 10th to 8th team at the moment. We're not playing like that top 6 team, which we could be, and that's where we should be really with De Zerbi. So do you think we're almost going to be cornered a little bit into making that decision in January to spend a little bit?
I think
we've got the money.
Look, exactly, we've got the money, we've got the funds. I personally, look, if I was Tony Bloom or if I was De Zerbi, I would be pushing to hell to get fullbacks. Definitely, I think fullbacks are so key. We saw, look, if Estepina gets injured again, we're gonna have to rely on James Milner at left back, and that's not what we want. Let's be honest with ourselves. We cannot be having James Milner at left back in 2023, or at full or right back, wherever it might be. I'm sorry. He has to be a squad player. He has to come off the bench. He has to just be around the squad. I'm sorry. He should not be starting games. And there's no slight. I'm not saying he's been crap or he's been awful. Just he's not good enough to be starting games. If, like you said, if we want to get to that top 6. He is not a player that should be starting, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, as a squad player, I'm all for it. I love his experience and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, going back to the question, I would definitely get a fullback in, left back or right, or both, right back or left back, just to have that cover. And then maybe in the attacking positions, maybe like I'm trying to think what position exactly, because you've got Ansu Fati who can play in the middle. You've got João Pedro who can play in the middle. Yeah, I think the right hand side probably, because obviously Solly March now is probably out
we need
for
a
the
solid
season.
replacement. Simple as that. We need a solid replacement. Like, I think that's what people will really, really undermine is Solly's impact. Like, I think that even his versatility for us was so important. We could put him at left back, put him at right wing. He could cut in very well. Adingra is great. I think he's a great talent. But again, he's very lightweight, and I think that at the moment he's only 21. He's got to grow into the team, and I think he will. I think he's definitely got it about him. He'll be fine. But again, he just needs to beef up. He just needs to learn the team a little bit. He needs to learn the league. He's not a starter yet. Adingra. I think he's a great player, but not physical. Again, he keeps coming down to that common denominator. He's not physical enough to deal with sort of left backs and right backs in this league. And as you say, Maz, I think replacing Solly, replacing sort of right backs, left backs, probably more so left at the moment, because I think that's where we're definitely dodgy on, provided Veltman and Lamptey can actually stay fit. For me, it's a midfield. I still don't think McAllister Caicedo has been replaced, and I think every single week I think it, and I always go in with that optimism, thinking no, but we'll get into it. Baleba, Dahoud will get better, and they are, but they're still not there, and I think that's where you just need that. That's where I'd spend the money.
But then I agree, but to play devil's advocate, then if you do buy another centre midfielder, though, then how do you then accommodate everyone? So like Baleba and Dahoud are probably thinking, well, when are we going to get game time then? Yeah,
it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. Tough. I mean, for me, Dahoud is good, sort of more advanced. In anywhere deeper than that, I reckon, as I say, most sort of physical counter-attacking sides are going to get through him. And I think that he's definitely more of a McAllister, but not as physical as him. He's definitely. I reckon if he played like in the Gross role, we would see the best Dahoud. But because we can't play him there, because we haven't got Caicedo behind him, you don't see the best Dahoud. And I think that's our problem. Baleba, I think he'll be great for us, but again, he's 19, so we're relying on him to start being good for us, and he's 19. And I just think that this season, just to expect, we spent 25 million on him, he's a lot of money, but I just don't think he's quite ready yet. I think he's a great talent again. It's hard.
And I think it's been a running theme for the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 years, where we've always bought players for the future and not for the now. And I think that's been a recurring theme for a good 2-3 years now. And look, I'm all for it because we've unearthed some absolute gems. Like, look at Caicedo, look at McAllister, look at the Basuma, the players we've developed and sold on. Ben White previously, even Levi Colwill, we had a big part to play in the development.
Way though, Maz, though, like you look at it, sorry to cut you off, but the players you list there, Ben White wasn't in our team before. It was Webster and Dunk. So Ben White was an add-on, and he was a great add-on. But when we lost him, it wasn't like we've missed our best player. And Caicedo was an add-on to Basuma. He wasn't starting for us before that. And then he was actually ended up probably being arguably better than him at some points. And then McAllister, again, didn't really play for us, came into the team.
Yeah.
And these are players that have been a bit of an add-on. So the investing in the future worked perfectly because we had a team ready then. Whereas now, we've lost McAllister and Caicedo and they're our key. And we've not got someone that's ready. For once, we've lost the key rather than we've lost an add-on. And I think that's what's really shot us, I think.
And also as well, actually, you make a good point about the sort of loans as well. So, like, does Baleba, really in terms of like development, Baleba probably could stayed in France, had another year in France, and then came and started next year. But like you said, because we don't have those starters, he's had to come in and had to play. Or he's lacking fitness, but most of the time he's had to come in and do a job. And it's like, well, is that fair? Like on a 19-year-old, lad who's just come into a brand new league, like everything's new to him, and he's still struggling with his fitness and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, how can you rely on them and expect them to come in and just be the same players as we've lost? And it's just not going to happen. So
unfortunately for them, as we said right at the beginning of the pod, the bar we've set, we have to then rely and expect on them because we haven't got a choice because they're our players and that's what we've got. And I think that's what I said right at the beginning when we signed Baleba. I said, I don't want to put the pressure on him, but I have to because we've labelled him as the Caicedo
10 out of 10s every week.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to then be as good as Caicedo was. And to then put that on him was always going to be a massive, massive, massive expectation. And to then say that to Gilmour, to say that to Dahoud, you have to be as good as McAllister was for us. It's a big expectation. I think that's what they haven't quite just flowed into because we haven't had that ready-made ready. I think that's what we said, wasn't it, right at the beginning when Caicedo was linked away, was he will be the one we miss because he was our cog in that midfield towards the end of the season. He was the one that broke up. He won the 50-50s. We didn't get counter-attacked as much. It was big for us.
Just my final point on this. I think as well, it doesn't actually help as well, and it all stems, in my opinion, it all stems back to rotation. Like, it doesn't help for our midfield three to always be changing as well. Like, again, it's like, how are you expecting to get the best out of Dahoud, the best out of Gilmour, the best out of Baleba, or whoever it might be? How do you expect to get the best out of them if they're not getting a good, consistent run of games? Because, Gilmour must be thinking, especially him. Do you remember that patch he had where he was unbelievable, and then all of a sudden he just gets dropped? And it's like, surely, as Gilmour, you're thinking, well, I've just been fantastic for 2 or 3 games, and I've just been dropped. And it's like, I get you're saving legs, and there's loads of reasons, and I get De Zerbi's probably thinking behind it all, but do I agree with it? Probably not. But again, who am I to say I am not a Premier League manager? But that's the
fun of it, isn't it? We're not Premier League managers. We're here talking as fans about things the Premier League managers have to think about. And I think that's what people, we have an opinion on it. Whether it's right, it's probably not half the time. But look, that's what it is. And I think
exactly. Opinions.
That's the fun of football podcasts, mate. But I think. To round off the game, I thought that was a good debate on McAllister, Caicedo's replacements, etc., and squad. But I just think to round off the game, it's a good result at the end of the day. Considering we've dug deep, which is one thing we haven't done enough. I think we haven't dug deep. We haven't tried to come back into a game, especially against a team that sits so deep against us and can't get through. So for me, I'm happy with the result. I think we need to start winning games. Obviously, we got Ajax obviously in the week, but in the Premier League we need to start winning some games. Ajax now just won a game in there, which is great.
Oh, they won finally.
Yeah, they finally won. I think it was against bottom of the league, but they won regardless. And again, we're going into that game. We have to win because we need to be qualifying in the Europa League. So the expectations remain high, and I think they should still, because we're still a great team. We're just in a very weird spot, and we need to. I don't know how we get out of it. I'm sure De Zerbi's a lot more inclined to sort that out than I am. But yeah, I think a decent result nonetheless. And we'll just take it and move on.
I think the way that Everton are going, they're definitely progressing. You know, they're not, like I said earlier, they're not the same Everton that we all expect and sort of know of from last season. I think they have got much better as a team, as a unit. So yeah, to go away to Everton to get a point, I'm not mad at it right now in this current moment. I'm not mad at it at all. Maybe we look back in hindsight and they go on to get relegated and we think, well, we should have been beating Everton. But right now. In the moment, I think that's what sometimes we forget to do, living in the moment. Right now, I'll take the 1 point.
Yeah.
And we move on.
I agree.
On to Ajax.
Yeah. We'll wait for Ben for Ajax, I think.
Yeah. We'll definitely do an Ajax preview.
Ajax.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. I think that's pretty much everything, isn't it? Unless we've missed anything. Referees.
Smashed it.
Pretty much. Yeah, everything's covered. That 50 minutes has flown by for me. So hopefully it's done the same for everyone else watching. But yeah.
It's like a therapy session, mate.
It is, isn't it, really? You just have a little rant about everything and it's all gone, isn't it? But yeah, that's probably what the headache was before I started the pod, man. But yeah, if you're all...
shout out to Ryan. He's done 50 minutes of a podcast with a banging headache, so shout out.
I'm all right now. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Soldier, this is what we do for you. This is what we do for everyone for listening. This is what we do. This is the commitment. This is the commitment we give to this podcast.
And I wasn't drinking before everyone says I can't handle a drink or anything. I actually wasn't drinking, so I don't need to hear all that. That's Ben's problem, not mine.
I did ask that. To be fair, first question I asked was like, were you drinking last night?
Yeah, that will be tonight. But yeah, we'll see you all before Ajax, which is insane to say. We'll be out in Amsterdam for the first ever time, which will be unbelievable. So yeah, we'll see you all very soon. Let us know in the comments below a bit about our talking points. Mitoma talking point, January talking point. Take one of them, one of the little things, whatever it is that sparked your interest. I want to hear your thoughts on it, because we've actually gone into quite deep things, referees as well. So there's 3 big talking points there: squad depth. So yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear what people think. But yeah. Till then, Maz, thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave reviews, and we'll see you just before Ajax. Goodbye.